Go.
Welcome back to the Creekcast, everybody. Today we have another very special episode, and that's right, we have another guest. So I think you can do a better job introducing yourself than me. But if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Will Boyajian. I'm the founder of a New York-based nonprofit organization called Hopeful Cases that uses musicians busking, playing music on the streets to raise money for those in need. So we send musicians out into subways and streets in major cities with a sign that says, if you're homeless or you need help, you can take as much money from the case as you want. We just like to play. We started in 2017, and we've been running hard ever since.
Yeah, I mean,
Hell yeah.
really cool project that you have, and it really caught my attention when I actually saw you on a Reddit live stream, which was quite a way to find a guest. So yeah, I mean, we'd like to kind of start off with some general topics about, obviously you move around in this nonprofit, and a lot of it deals with homelessness, if not most of it. So what's kind of your perspective on homelessness in today's world?
I think homelessness in today's world, especially in America, because that's all I can really speak of. Mm-hmm. I think an inherent kind of byproduct, a casualty of one of the things that has made America such a economic superpower is the inherent competition in our country. And because of that, I think we've really stopped taking care of our most vulnerable people, those with food insecurity and those with housing insecurity. And I think the real measure of a country is how you are treating your most vulnerable and those who you don't have to treat well. There are some wonderful programs in this country, and we don't do a terrible job at all, but the rate as a whole has been climbing steadily. And I wanted to come up with a creative solution to a problem I saw in my day-to-day with what my very limited and very specified skill set was. So this was the best option I could come up with.
Yeah, I mean, homelessness, like in every part of the world, seems to be a problem, especially on this side of the world. I think it's a terrible thing. I don't think anyone can argue otherwise. I think people realize that being homeless is not a choice. It's just victims of how the world runs. So we wanted to ask you on your thoughts on homelessness in not only today's world, but do you think it has changed due to the pandemic, or has it stayed the same?
Yeah, so I think the pandemic, while immediately has increased homelessness and increased financial insecurity in the country, I do think we're going to see a very interesting turnaround in the years to come. So I think what this really showed all of us on what I'll call the inside, but those of us who were seemingly doing well in January of 2020, I think we very quickly saw the reality of how fast you can lose everything.
Yeah.
How a few months with no income and some unexpected costs could put any of us on the street without a proper support system in place. And I think it's always important to remember that homelessness is a forever problem. There is not an immediate solution, and to a certain extent, it's a really integral part of the human experience. We were homeless in the beginning.
Yeah.
And the act, I think, of living day to day, resource to resource, they really are some of the most human humans I've met. I think the pandemic has immediately made it much worse. I hope this has, at a bare minimum, caused an increased tick in empathy and compassion, both at a federal and a statewide level, that will allow us to pass kind of legislation that helps and will allow us the courage, I think, to face some of these issues head on and realize that there's no benefit to mistreating or forgetting about these people. It doesn't make you have less.
Yeah, I think
push this issue to the front, you know?
Yeah. Keyword being their people. I mean, not because you don't have a home or many things to call your own, you're less of a person. yeah, and this pandemic definitely showed us how fast everything can go, like in just a snap.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of showed, as you said, it shows us that anybody could go homeless, and it's just something that happens in the way the world is kind of set up, and it's no reason to have judgment or misconceptions about these people, because they're just normal people, and these sort of events just happen. And I mean, yeah, it's a shame, but it's very, very interesting take that you give.
It's so, and I've this has been a growing understanding for me, but it is a forever problem. There will be times where we as an organization will have, because we really go day to day with the money. We try to give out the most we can give out each day, which means that it just takes a day of low donations or a day of high requests for us to be broke.
Yeah.
And this used to cause me a lot of stress. And I was talking with a consultant, a friend and a consultant who does nonprofit work, and he said, "Did you think you were going to solve this?" And a little bit, I was like, maybe if I did a really good job. But he's like, "No, dude, you're not going to solve this. But what you can do is make the lives of those who are struggling a slightly bit more comfortable, and maybe that buffer can give them the air they need to climb forward." And that's, I think, is the approach we need to all be taking. These are our neighbors. By definition, these are our neighbors. These are people in our community. And this is someone's father, it's someone's son, it's someone's daughter. And I've always said, and I wish we could take this, but if you're a country and you're a legislator in that country or a politician, the biggest flex you could do is to just pour money into this. Imagine the flex. I wish we'd look at it this way, to say, my dream would be, because we're always going to have homeless people in this country. I would love for our homeless people, I would wish for other countries to look at our homeless people and say, yo, the homeless people in America are doing so good. Even they're doing better than we. That is the dream. That should be the flex.
Yes.
And why not? Why would you not want to do that if you can? And we can. We have the ability, So that's always kind of been my stance on that. Pretty dang left, but why not?
Yeah, I mean, not to be afraid of it. I mean, I don't think it's a bad opinion to have, like, wow, let's make homeless people happier and make their lives less miserable. I don't think anyone can argue against that.
No.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, mainly it's just that they're victims of the system at play and how everything works, like as I said at the beginning. And we have a complex, at least this side of the world, that we ourselves alone can do so much change and we can solve the world with enough dedication, which is simply not true. Like, we need to start small and make these little projects that eventually become big and impact the immediate world around us, not for, let's solve world hunger right now, let's do it. Just not a thing.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of before we touch on some more personal questions about your whole organization and about yourself, we're gonna make a quick pause for the ad break. Remember, this is if we ever make any money, it would all go to charitable organizations. So stick around. Welcome back from the ad break, and now we are going to touch on some questions about you. Starting off with, I mean, it kind of called out to me that somebody would make a project so dedicated to homeless people, because I don't know about either of you, but I haven't really seen that much anywhere. So it really made me question if you have a personal experience with homelessness at all, or if it just came out of, I don't know, wanting to learn more or help more.
So I don't have a personal experience. I mean, I have light personal experiences, but I've for the most part I've been very, very lucky and privileged in my life. Privileged to have a support network in place, privileged to have been given the opportunity for education, and just a whole plethora of things. But when I moved to New York City from upstate New York, this was an issue I hadn't dealt with on an interpersonal level. So I was very rapidly kind of thrust into an environment where you had literally some of the richest people in the world physically brushing shoulders with people who have nothing.
Yeah.
And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. They have no money to their name. They have no possessions. And the thing that really struck me was watching New Yorkers, who I was one of them, and I had no money at this time. But I had no money like a 20-year-old has no money. I couldn't I couldn't like get a beer, if I want,
Yeah.
And I would watch these interactions between these super duper rich who live in a city where we throw money away. In New York City, I would throw money away. I would like have an appointment and I'd have like 15 minutes early. So I'd be like, I'll go buy a $10 bagel for I wasn't even hungry. I was so much of that, and you're approached constantly. And it coming face to face with something, I've always said you can either you can choose to ignore it, you can let it eat you up, or you can choose to do something. And those are really, I think, the only three ways to navigate it. So no, I don't have any personal experience. I've been very lucky in that regard, but there's been times in my life where $10 seems like a mountain.
Yeah.
Where I don't know how I could ever pay for this thing I need to pay for rent, and in my early years I was below paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And you know what? A lot of those feelings came back with the pandemic.
I think for a lot of people.
Yeah, for a lot of people. So that's always been my but it's mostly been with my kind of interpersonal dealings on the street.
Yeah, but that, I mean, it seems very interesting because through my eyes, I find it a very rare and creative project. And yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting that it kind of just becomes out of that interaction and kind of your view that you had when you were in New York of this massive diversity from these ridiculously rich people who don't need that much money and will never use that much money, and the people who can barely even live, like they don't have anything to their name. And there's also kind of a midpoint, which you mentioned as well, which is I'm broke in my 20s, where you kind of can't afford as much, and it's kind of that battle. So I find it very interesting that it kind of arose from that.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I know you already touched on this, but we wanted to get a more insightful look. We wanted to ask, how did hopeful cases come to life?
Totally. So I think it was January of 2017. I had made a New Year's resolution that every time I was asked for money on the street, I would give it to someone if I had it. I had caught myself several times, I think as anyone who lives in a city does, but someone comes up to you and says, do you have any money? Can I have some money? And you lie. You go like, no, I have none. I have no money, which is a lie. You do. You could give even a little bit, but because you don't want to be close to it. It's scary to be close to something like that. Not scary because of a person. I think it's scary to be close to the idea of homelessness, of financial ruin. So I made this a resolution, and it lasted like a week. It was like $30 or $40 a day. I couldn't do it. But I didn't want to give up on this. I would have felt bad giving up on this idea. So I wanted to try to come up with a way, with my very limited skill set, to find a way to maintain the spirit of this resolution. I'd always busked on the streets, for fun or for pocket change, or if I wanted to, buy a beer, go out, I would do it, like any privileged white person would. And, I remember there was a day because at this time in my life, I really didn't like the city. I still don't love the city. I hate New York City. It's just where I live.
Yeah.
But I remember I'd first gotten to the city. And I got on the NQ train out of Queens, and I was like super wet behind the ears. And oh, pardon me. I was super wet behind the ears, and a man walks on the train, covered in feces, homeless, rags, with a blanket over his head, so no one can see his face. And I watched this whole train of supposedly tough New Yorkers.
Yeah.
They're so strong and tough. And they all, like, in the least tactful way, covered their faces and they ran to the other side of the train. And I remember thinking, none of us, most of us will never have an entire room vacate because we walked into it. And I remember being so angry because I said, this guy can see you. Like, he knows you're here. Can you have a little bit of tact? This is a human. Wow. It's a guy. It made me so angry. I mean, it's like a big part of Hopeful Cases being formed in my head wasn't even necessarily, it was always to give help to those who need it. But there was a big part of it that was to shame New Yorkers because I hated them. I still do. I don't like them. It was to shame them into what they're willing to spend their money on and what they're willing to not spend their money on. So I had this idea bubbling for a while, and I can share this story now because it's been long enough, but I through a really miraculous course of events, Sigourney Weaver's people had reached out to me. They wanted me to play a memorial service for the 1-year anniversary of Alan Rickman's death.
Wow. So
they, I was an up and coming actor. I wasn't even up and coming. I was just I wasn't even up and coming. I was just a new actor, and I was like, hell yeah. And I love Sigourney Weaver. And I told everyone. I posted on Facebook. I was doing that thing where you contact old enemies and you try to casually hey, so I'm doing this thing for Sigourney Weaver, person I haven't talked to in 8 years. And I told everyone, and then they said, how much, what's your rate? And I said $150. And then I got an email an hour later. They're like, yeah, we're going to go with someone else. That's way too low. I didn't realize at the time that'd be like if someone's like, yeah, dude, I'll do your heart surgery. $85. You'd be like, I'm not going to go to that guy. Yeah. So I was just so pissed, and I was so angry and so disheartened. I was having one of those New York City days, and I could either have sat in my room and drank it away, or I said, no, I'm gonna do something. So I just wrote the sign, and it had been in my head, and I went down and I did it, and it felt good. And it worked. This experiment worked. So I decided to keep doing it, and I've just been doing it on and off for the past 4 years now.
Wow. I mean, I didn't expect that to be the case. The fact that you were contacted by Sigourney Weaver for an Alan Rickman event, and then you just end up out of that frustration doing this. It's really interesting how these events can just end up happening like that.
I want her to find out. I want somehow Sigourney Weaver to become aware of the course of actions that she said. Because had I done that event, I would have never done this. It would have never happened.
Fair. I mean, maybe this is it. Maybe through the Twitchcast she will know.
Maybe I hope so.
So ultimately that kind of leads a bit into the next question of I mean, it seems like it wasn't planned to be a nonprofit with structure and this organization. It was more like this thing that just happened. But I mean, throughout the course of it, or at the beginning of it, was there ever a plan on making it something like it is today, or something bigger?
No, there was never any plan. There was never a plan, and there's still. I mean, it's we are so It's absurd how ragtag we are. Which I am just now getting comfortable saying. We're so ragtag. There's all these boxes we haven't checked. But no, I mean, the plan was definitely never. The plan was absolutely not for me to still be playing music. I was hoping that I would play music in the beginning, and I could get a bunch of musicians, and then I could move to an administrative role. we've had a lot of difficulty finding musicians who are willing to do it regularly. And I say this with love. We've had trouble finding those who want to do it regularly and are also good musicians, and are good entertainers, because that's what makes this work. If I do toot my horn a little bit, but I definitely never predicted that we would spend a year doing an online model of it, which is so dramatically different from the street model we were doing pre-pandemic. So that's been the biggest change, you know, and the online model has been very, I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but the online model has been very different. Yeah. And it's almost a completely different happening now. But no, I never planned, I planned on this would be something I would do a couple times a week. But, you know, there's something addictive about it. There's something... And this is what I try to sell. That's why I'm amazed it's so hard for us to find musicians. There's something, as a musician or as an artist or as a performer, there's something so addicting about doing these live performances, whether online or on the street. Knowing that you have this one moment, it's gone, but because of that, even if it's only 5 people, even if it's 50 people, that you were able to make a little change in some people's lives. It's really addicting. And like I always tell musicians, I'm like, you're so much better when you're playing for us. You're not any better as a musician, but people think you're so much better. Like they think you're so good. So just do it. But no, it's really hard for us to find musicians. So it's way different than I thought it was today. In some ways, it's much bigger. In some ways, it's much smaller. You know, in some ways, it's way more organized. In other ways, it's more disorganized than ever. So it's but that's kind of, I've always said that's kind of part of Hopeful Case's charm, is we're kind of grassroots and ragtag. So we're trying to get more organized, but it's slow going without stopping the train of, you know, the help train.
Yeah, I can imagine it's very hard.
Yeah. There's a lot of days where I'm like, I really like today. Like I need to take a week. What I need to do is take like 2 weeks and just structure and plan. But it's, you know, it ends up, you know, because I still work regular jobs, so it's like these 2.5 hours of a day of playing, and then, you know, dealing with all the emails and the requests. Now I never had to do that before, so now it's, you know, we get dozens and dozens of these emails a day, so it's changing, and this is temporary. We'll be back on the street in May. We'll be back in New York City on the street. The streams will slow down a little bit, begrudgingly. So yeah, that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I can imagine how difficult it can be to convince people to do this to a certain extent full time, because as you said, like it's also a matter of people who still have to work jobs and figure out other things. So at a certain degree, it becomes, when can you, instead of are you so on board that you'll do it. I mean, I see you on Reddit all the time. It's incredible. Every time I'm scrolling through, it's just like, oh, there he is again.
And, you know, it was much easier when it was in the street, because we'd say, you know, so we email him, musician, I'd like to get involved, and we'd say, cool, here are our guidelines, here are the rules, you know, give all the money away, that's the only big rule, be nice, do all that stuff, make your sign like this. And then if they wanted to do it, cool. If they didn't do it, fine. I wouldn't even always know they were doing it. I'd see a picture sometime and say, I don't never even talk to that person. That's so cool. But now with the online model, there's a precedent that help is available. Before, help would be available if you were there and you caught that person on the street. But now there's a precedent that there's always help. So we're open 24 hours a day now, and we need to have someone playing every day. You know, so I can't really take a day off unless every now and then I get someone who wants to do a stream for us. But it's the arts were hit so hard that it's really hard to convince people at a time where there's no work in the arts to do it for free, you know.
Yeah, it's not only time, but like resources and stuff. It's difficult, but I mean, everyone who's doing it, we appreciate it. Your hard work.
Fair play to you.
Yeah, it's really something to admire. So
yeah, that's what I tell them. That's what I try to tell them.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, if they listen to this, their perspective might change. Any musicians listening to this, hit us up. We can hook you up. It's cool. So we wanted to move on hopeful cases. It's a lot of interactions with more people and just another type of just state of mind. So we wanted to ask, how has hopeful cases changed your perspective on life and people?
Oh man, that's how has it changed my perspective? Before I started doing this, even when I was living in the city and I was seeing homeless people daily, I think we all have this kind of image of what a homeless person looks like.
Yeah.
I think we all have this kind of Looney Tunes image of a guy wearing like a tattered old clothes, and he's like holding a bottle of gin. He's like shouting at a wall. He's got a beer. But, so the biggest thing was when I started was to realize what percentage of them were working. They say in New York City, 40% of the homeless have jobs. They're working poor with no home. It was amazing how many of these are not people I would ever in a million years think. People would come up and take from the case, and it looked like a well-dressed woman. And she'd say, I drop my kids off at a daycare, at a work that's not mine. I sneak them in, and basically stuff like that. I drop them with relatives, and I go and work, and then I pick them up, and then we got to try to find a place that's safe to sleep with my kids. On the other side of it, I learned that people are better than I thought they were. I realized that if given the choice, if given the opportunity to make the right choice, and you really set them up with a win, that they'll take it. If you set them up with an easy, fun way to do good, they're more than happy. They don't want to work at doing good, but you have to really spoon feed it to them, and they'll gobble it up. They love it. So those have been the big perspective. People are better than I thought they were, and that the homeless are all around us, and it is a multifaceted, complex problem that does not always stem down to, I feel like before I thought, oh, that person is either lazy or they're a drug addict or they have mental problems. But once you get in the hole, once you're in a hole, climbing out is much more difficult than walking flat ground, So those are, I think, been the biggest changes.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like something that not only opens your eyes a bit, but it kind of takes you into that world. And as you said, like, I'm sure that 99% of people, when they think of homelessness and homeless people, they're going to think, oh, well, it's the person who has gone crazy, drug addict. They always go to worst case scenarios. But yeah, I mean, kind of how you describe it, it just shows that it isn't all black and white. There's a lot of gray area where a lot of different types of people fit.
Absolutely. And I think it's also that, so I would hate to be kind of misquoted. The alcohol abuse and substance abuse and mental health are major contributing factors, and they are a majority case. But it's that doesn't mean that you get to go, well, whatever, screw you.
Yeah.
It's a dude, it's a lady, it's a person, it's a person, treat them like the person they are at a bare minimum. I got to a point, I was in the city, and I would see there'd be homeless people I would see, and I really even hate that. There'd be people I would see on the street every single day, more than I would see my friends or family. And I always go, if you lived in the suburbs, and every day you went to your car and there was a guy on the road with nothing, and he said, hey, can I have $5? Give him $5. Why not? That's the whole premise, is just why not? If you have that ability. Because, like, the money is there. The money is there. We have the money. It's what we're willing to give to, what and how we're willing to spend it. And I always think if given the choice between $5 of something you're going to buy that you don't need, or $5 even a beer, $5 of comfort, that $5 becomes huge in the hands of someone else. So you should try to make your money as big as possible, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, make it have more impact. Like those $5 might not be a lot to you, but it's their whole world. Like $5 can be like a really big difference, and I think that just speaks to how people, even knowing that there it's really nothing to you but a lot to them, and still not giving it. It speaks a lot about well, I don't want to say it. I don't want to, but yeah, our society in general.
No, absolutely. So I mean, so obviously the other day, and I bring this up. The other day I was going, the thing where you go through your phone and you see how much money have I been spending on. I don't even know I'm spending just on stuff on it. So there was an app I had purchased that makes goofy sound effects, and I had been spending $2 a month on an app that essentially makes fart noises and burping sounds, because I bought him, and we all have something like that in 2020. We all have something you're like, wow, shit, I forgot. I'll do next month, and you don't. That's all stuff that can be put to something. Yeah. We've all got very cavalier in the modern world, and even if it's $1, it makes a difference, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what I tell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when you have nothing and you get something, that just completely changes the whole scene for that person. So it's using your money wisely at the end of the day.
For sure.
And this also kind of brings up how, obviously, as you interact with people in this line of, I'd say work to a certain extent. You meet a lot of people, and I suppose you hear a lot of stories. So I don't know if you have one or many different stories that are with these people, either homeless or not homeless, which kind of stuck with you.
Yeah, I'll share one because there's so many, especially, and they're different now that I'm in person because I get to keep tabs. And I try to tell the people who answer our emails to make sure to keep tabs as well if I can't. But there was a day when I was on the street. I think this was like 2019, 2018, and a guy came off the train and was overwhelmingly not only the worst position I'd ever seen a homeless person in. It was the worst condition I'd ever seen a human in.
Wow.
Sores all over his legs. He had diabetes. He clearly wasn't getting medication for it. No circulation. Big open sores on his leg. Clothes and rags. Hair in dreads. Just matted and dirty and just covered in filth. His own life. And he came off, and I was playing on the street. It was summer, and he looked at the sign and didn't say anything. He walked up, and he pulled a couple dollars out of the case and walked away. And I said, yeah, awesome. That's what we do. He came back a few minutes later, and he put 2 Gatorades down at my feet.
Wow.
And he said, hey, you look thirsty. It's hot out. You look thirsty. And he walked away. And I remember thinking, this guy has nothing. He has nothing. And he chose to take a little bit and also give some of that back. And that always stuck with me. And you know what? And this is kind of a segue, but overwhelmingly, the people who give the most to us and the most regularly are those closest to the problem. We tend to get a lot from poorer communities, especially in the city. I would always say in the city that wealthy white people are our least giving group. It's almost always the impoverished groups because they're closer to the problem and they have experience with that problem, whether firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand. And I think they know the benefit that a small little boost can do. But the story of the guy getting the Gatorades has always really struck me. That's one I always kept with me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That
really
that really put me that put me at shock.
Yeah, and and it was a little different now online. It's like we have contact, but yeah, on the street, like I'll never I'll never see that guy again.
Yeah.
I'll never have any idea if he got better or got worse. And yeah, he stuck with me, and I hope wherever he is, he's doing better. We always joke that I hope to never see anyone again. When someone takes money, that's our final message. I say, I hope to never hear from you again.
Yeah.
If you want to, we're here for you. Don't hesitate, but we hope this is the first and last time.
Yeah, wow.
It's a good model to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so moving away from the topic a little bit, you already touched on this a little bit, but we wanted to have a more structured answer. Has the pandemic affected hopeful cases like at all? Is it really big change or small?
Massive. The pandemic has been a massive change for us. So when the pandemic hit, I was in New York City. I'd actually just quit a real big job that I'd worked for years because I was about to go on this big Hopeful Cases tour. We were going to do a big promotional tour. So we were really rocking and rolling on the street at that time and really gotten into our groove of scheduling and all that. And then the pandemic comes. We naturally, I fled the city like so many did because and that had a whole bunch of other reasons why that happened. Yeah. But I left the city, and you know what? So we couldn't play in the subways. It wasn't responsible or safe or allowed for a long time. And so I fled the city in the Great Exodus, and then I spent maybe 3 or 4 months here, just doing what we all were doing for 3 months, just kind of like drinking and kicking the dirt, just angry. So I didn't want to stop this though, and I saw that the need was greater. So we adopted a full digital model. So I started doing the Reddit live streams, and we eventually transitioned to the Twitch live streams, and took the whole model of the open guitar case and tried to make it an open digital wallet kind of thing. So now we receive funds through donations. We receive requests through a form on the website and through emails and word of mouth. And we've been able to hang on. It's a little different now because the requests never stop.
Yeah.
We get the donations when we play like we would on the street, but the requests don't stop. They're 24/7. And if there's, because all our volunteers are that, they're volunteers. So if there's a week where we lose all our volunteers, which happens regularly, and I'm the one doing 100% of the emails, it gets, I'll wake up at 6, 7 in the morning, and there's just 30 emails of people who are like, I need, they're desperate. They have nothing.
Yeah.
It's also allowed us to expand both our audience and those we help globally now. So we get emails from all over, not all over, but we've had a few from the Philippines. We've had a lot of Europe now, a lot of Canada, a lot of Mexico.
Yeah.
So it's allowed us to do that. But what's really cool is it's allowed us to have communication with those we help and kind of keep tabs and check in on, and follow how they're progressing or not. So that's been very different. And we have fans now, which before we were just on the street, so that's kind of weird now. Is before it was just music, but now there's shows like the Reddit Live and the Twitch are full on productions. We have cameras and we do, and I am, if I do toot my horn, I'm very proud of the quality of entertainment we offer. Yeah. So those have been the biggest changes. And I'll tell you what, this is the biggest change is that when we were on the street, and maybe this is the physical aspect of walking up to a case and taking money, we were dealing with truly homeless with nothing. Now, this pandemic has kind of expanded it now to it's a lot of people who are doing good in 2019, it's a lot of hey, I'm a college student and I don't have any food, or I can't get my medication. because like I haven't worked in 8 months, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of that now. So it's definitely allowed us to cast a wider net. We give more and we get more now, but it's just the model is on such a razor's edge because it's it's not a sustainable model we run. So it really is on a razor's edge. So we'll see how long we can hold on to this mission and this cause.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's going to be okay.
let's hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's noble causes, and those always stand up in the end.
Yeah,
That's
Right
what
now.
I think, man.
Yeah, I mean, right now everything seems to suck because it does. But yeah, as we always say, it gets better with time.
Here
Yeah.
is hoping. Here's hoping.
Yeah, time
Yeah.
is the best doctor. So let's see how that treats us in general. Because I don't know if our listeners or anyone for that matter knows how this entire podcast came to be. But it's basically thanks to the pandemic. Without
Yeah.
it, we wouldn't have this. So
yeah,
I mean, there is some room to grow and prosper in this environment. It's just a matter of getting your footing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's not going to last forever. That's just a fact.
yeah,
So, and yeah, like with the vaccines coming out and like half the population being on their way to being completely vaccinated, I think we are a-okay for the future.
Yeah. It won't be the end. It won't be the end of us. But it's definitely I think the emotional and mental damage is going to linger for quite a bit,
Yeah. Yeah, I think also kind of as you were talking, it just brought to me that obviously, as you said, like those first 3 months for you and for many other people, it's just kind of like it ruined your plans because you were going to go on this tour. Like it was really looking like it was going to grow. And I think even though that postponed it and ultimately kind of canceled that part of Hopeful Cases, with the pandemic, kind of a new seed kind of grew. And I mean, I don't know if you're really bigger, but it definitely sounds like you have a bigger reach, a bigger audience, because you're now electronically.
Yeah, we've helped more people.
Yeah.
I probably helped more people. We probably helped more people than we would have on the street. So it's a net good. It's a net good. We have been able to. We've really. Disaster is any charitable philanthropic organization. Disaster is kind of your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Like that. Like now you're like, yeah, our time to shine.
Yeah, and as you said about like following through on these people, which is ultimately something that you didn't have before. I'm kind of curious to see how the follow-ups have gone, if you've really had any big follow-ups on people who completely changed their life around, or at least your organization allowed them to get to a certain point where they didn't they weren't in that same position.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few. In fact, we just got an email like an hour and a half ago of someone who was saying, I was just gonna look it up. We just got a request right now. We just got an email like an hour or two ago of someone who was like, "Hey, dude, I just want to let you know, I got a job. I'm working at and he said, hey, so I just want to let you know, when I get my paycheck, I'll be giving some back." We had one guy who, and like we don't ever, if we have money, the only time we'll ever refuse someone, besides someone who's like blatantly lying about, then that happens.
Yeah.
But the only time we'll refuse someone is someone who's gotten help, like if you've asked 5 times in 2 weeks and we just don't have enough, like we can never let a repeat help take the place of a newcomer.
Yeah.
But there was someone who was, it got to a point where I was like, oh dude, like come on man. It was like every 3 days he's like, hey, can I have, like, I'm sorry, but like I need $5, $10 please. And you know what, and there were absolutely some times I was like, oh man, we don't have enough, like and that was like August, and then September and October and November and December, and then I didn't hear from him again. And then I got an email about a month ago, and he said, hey, I'd like to make a big donation. What is the best way to get it to you? And I said, you can go through it. He said, no. He's like, I would like to make a $600 or $700 donation if I can.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, dude, like I was rough and out, but like I got a job and I'm on the up and up, and I like did all this and I saved this and this huge breakthrough happened. And he's like, I want to give, so yeah, I mean, it's a lot. We either keep hearing from people and then we don't, and when we do again, it tends to be good news. So that's kind of rad.
Yeah, that's crazy, honestly. I mean, and it kind of shows the solidarity of hopeful cases, that in the end, you kind of make a web of people who not only have lived it, but if they manage to get out, they know the situation and they'll help. So it becomes kind of an endless kind of web in a way, where it's a community, a very tight-knit community.
It's a team, and we do always tell those people, we're like, don't give it, like, please hold on to it, hold on to it for now, and in your community, pay it back in your community, and if we do that enough, we can make some real change happen.
Yeah,
that's how it starts, like with lots of people trying to do the right thing, and that's more than enough to make change.
For sure.
Yeah, so next up on our next question, people have this idea that people, or humanity for that matter, are just inherently not evil, but just looking out for themselves. So did you have to move away that idea in order to start the cause? Yes.
And I'm going to try to phrase this delicately so it doesn't make me sound like an edgy 12-year-old. But you're gonna die. You're gonna die, and very little of what you do will matter. What will matter is the bad stuff you do and the good stuff you do. But you know what? Someone once told me, they were talking and they said, who was the best lawyer in 1710? And I said, because in 1710 there was like, who was the best musician in 1850? And you go, I have no idea. I don't know. They were the best. They were the number one. I don't know who this person is at all. So you might as well. So like, you're gonna be dead and you're gonna be totally forgotten about. So you might as well make the lives of those around you a little better. And humans are inherently greedy. We're inherently self-serving. It is our evolutionary backing. It's what has let us be a successful species. We're also inherently altruistic because we're social creatures and we know it benefits us when we promote altruism within our community. The issue is that this community has been spread to hair thinness in the growing digital global age. So I think these little thought experiments, and Hopeful Cases really is, as much as it is a mission, it's also a thought experiment about what it means to be a neighbor, what it means to be part of a community, what it means to give, what it means to get. So I think that has put aside some of the misconceptions I had of people. But I still think the biggest thing is you're going to die, so you might as well do some good stuff. You know, there's a quote, and this is a weird quote, but it's, do you guys watch Trailer Park Boys?
No.
No, I don't know.
It's like really gross, crass humor, but there's one of the actors passed away, and at the end of the season, they were just sharing a clip of him just talking out of character, and he said, there's a quote I will never forget. It's one of the only quotes I really keep on me. But he said, you know what the greatest currency in life is? It's gratitude. When you're dead, you're dead. but you're not so dead if you contribute something. So we try to really shame people into giving with that type of idea. We try to hit them over the head with it. So, but the misconceptions, I'm sure I have some misconceptions now that I'll later, flip on. But it's growing. But those have been the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine like perfectly. Well, like I haven't lived it, obviously, but it's just such a different cause that really puts you in the center of it. And I suppose, as you said, like you just gotta make people guilty to give, and you just learn through that process.
Yeah, and you know what? And we've always framed it that like, let us get our hands dirty. Like, we like getting our hands dirty. Let us get close to the problem if you don't want to, or that makes you uncomfortable, because it is very uncomfortable, both physically and mentally. It's uncomfortable to be close to suffering and difficulties. We try to avoid it as a species. So just be like, let us, like, we love it. I love getting my hands dirty. I love I love getting right down there where it needs to be done. So let us do it. We got volunteers who are willing to get dirty, so you don't have to. You get to have a clean mental slate. We get to do some good and feel good about ourselves. You feel good about yourselves. We do some good for other people. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you kind of already touched on this. I don't know if you'd like to skip it, but how have you managed to keep it going? Like, I guess as an organizational level at a certain degree, and how you've managed to really structure, even though you said it's kind of like willy-nilly, but how you've kind of managed to structure live streams on Reddit and Twitch, because I think, as you said, you have really good production, and it's become something that a lot of people will be like anticipating and expecting on a regular basis. So how has that kind of impacted you, and how has that transformed?
It's definitely I've just kind of plowed through it. I mean, I love doing the streams so much. There's a lot of days I just don't want to. Like it's like there's all the time I wake up and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to go be a clown for fun. But you have to, So it's just, and like in Reddit, I mean, Twitch is fun. Twitch is fun because, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Twitch show, but the Twitch show is a little different. We write a brand new song in an hour based off the suggestions. It's much cleaner and fun and calm. But Reddit is just toxic.
Yeah.
So like Reddit is almost me like fight. Like, and I mean, you've seen the shows. Part of the fun. Yeah. It's me just fighting with people. Like, it's me doing battle with the audience. Because they just hate me, like there's absolutely so much love, but like love is quiet, hate is loud. Yeah, so it's definitely. Like it's like someone will be like, "Oh, cool song," and I'll be like, "Whatever," but someone will be like, "You look like an idiot. Kill yourself," and I'm like, "Oh, now I need to fight this person forever." So like the hate really fuels me a lot. The hate really I just love it. I love being mean to idiots. It makes me so happy. So I've always taken a bludgeon approach, but on an administrative side, we've had to we amped up the website during this period. The website was non-existent before this, because we were on the street. We have to keep financial tabs now. There's a paper trail. We have to we have to be the judge sometimes. Sometimes someone's, we don't have enough funds for everyone. And sometimes we have to say, this person gets $10, this person gets $25, this person gets $5. We have to make that call now, which I hate. But it's just part of the process. But, we've just really plowed through. And I hope we can keep plowing. I think we can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned the Reddit live stream and how toxic it is, because that's something that also, I suppose, you're on the street and a lot of people won't really speak their mind, and I suppose you won't even have that much interaction with as many people as you come around when you're physically there. But on Reddit and the internet in general, it's just they're all behind a screen and they can do whatever they want to you.
Yeah, to put into perspective, when I used to play on the subway, so like I never wanted to be taking the spot of another busker because they tend to be doing it for living money, you know?
Yeah.
So I would always busk early in the morning. So I'd go down to the subway by 8 o'clock in the morning, which if you've never been into New York City subway at 8 o'clock in the morning, no one's happy. Like no one's excited for the day ahead.
Yeah.
So I'd be playing like loud rockabilly music at 8 in the morning, and I knew that people hated it, but no one said it because it's New York. No one says, you know, they're giant wimps. But on the internet, yeah, they'll just say it. They'll say exactly, and they're hidden. So my new favorite thing, I love when someone's really trolling. I just send them messages when I'm done. I mean, I write the mean songs about them, but I love writing messages because they never respond. But I'll be like, hey, I just noticed, like, is everything okay? Like, is everything okay in your life? I know, like, it doesn't hurt my feelings, but, like, if you need to talk, we can talk. If you're hurting or if something's bothering you, but, like, are you okay? How's your head? How's your heart? And I know that may sound like I'm being empathetic. I'm not. I do it because I know it makes them feel like shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. No, but every now and then someone will reach out. In fact, there was someone, this is kind of a segue, or this is kind of a tangent. There was someone who every time I would stream, he would just be all the time saying mean stuff constantly. It was really mean. And then there was a day I reached out and I was like, hey man, like, is everything okay? Like, you're always here being mean. And he's like, yeah, no, dude, I love you. You know, in the very beginning, you said you like when people are mean to you because it gives you stuff to make up songs about. And I was like, oh yeah, I did. I did say that to you in August. I just hadn't remembered. And I just been hating on this guy. Like, I've been really mean to him. And he was doing it. He was doing it for me. He was doing it to be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, the internet is just so difficult. And I mean, all these trolls, you feed off of their hate. And when you hit them, like, obviously with that intention of hurting them, it's just the realness that ends up getting to them and stopping them from bullying you even more.
I mean, they can't. Like, that's why I was like, you can't hurt me. Like, I'm already dead inside. Like, there's nothing you can do that is meaner than my own personal thoughts about me. So it's part of the fun. I think that's why a lot of people tune into. It's part of the fun is to watch me berate strangers, especially in 2020 and 2021. I think we've all just gotten sick of our neighbors a little bit, of our anonymous internet neighbors and peers. So I think we all want to see someone kind of yell at them.
A little bash.
Yeah, they deserve it. They need it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also healthy. Like, just get all the hate out to people who deserve it.
Yes.
Get it flowing. So now we're moving into our final 3 questions, big ones, more personal. So the first of the big 3 would be who is the biggest inspiration in your life?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a single inspiration inspiration. I know I have some people who are very inspiring to me and who have been very influential in me. I'll say one of them is listening to Sam Harris, specifically Sam Harris talking about free will, and how an understanding of like the reality of free will, or the lack thereof of functional free will, should affect how we move forward in the world with empathy and compassion. You know, I'm a real cynic. I'm a real misanthrope sometimes. So thoughts like that, to kind of break down the world into an objective reality, allowed me to navigate through with more empathy and more compassion while still being an asshole and being misanthropic. And I'll say, you know, and I hate New York City. I hate this city so much, but I get small little moments of influence and inspiration when I watch New Yorkers and people, now that it's online, support this and go out of their way to support this. Those things are very important and influential to me.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting, and I think we always ask this question because inspiration ends up forming a lot of people and their motives. So, I mean, I suppose throughout your journey, this has also been kind of a factor to hopeful cases, not only like on a professional level for you, and also personal.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just kind of join these two, so because they're kind of the same in a way, which is, do you have any more projects or ideas planned, first of all, and if so, then what are the 3 goals? Or, well, yeah, you can name 3 goals or more if you want, but 3 main goals for the future of either those projects or hopeful cases.
Yeah, so I mean, one of our big projects took, as we said earlier, is everything's kind of taken a hiatus. One of our big projects took a big hiatus, which was the big plan was to purchase some RVs and have them driving around and stationed in New York City that would act as kind of mobile laundries and mobile showers for the homeless in New York City. That naturally is really not doable in the current climate, but we hope to start moving forward again with that at the end of the summer. So by spring of 2022, we'll be ready to roll with that. Which I think is the earliest feasible time we'll be able to allow people into small closed spaces without having to disinfect heavily, that kind of thing. But right now, I mean, our biggest goal right now has been, because our model is so different, our big thing right now is becoming, we're in the process of becoming a 501c3. Right now, we're just a New York nonprofit. We're just an incorporated nonprofit. So becoming a real 501c3 will allow us to do more grant stuff, work with more kind of corporate backers, which will help us help more people. The second goal is really get back on the street and start rebuilding this network now that it took such a hit over the past year, and get more people on the street. So the goal specifically being to have a regular, if not constant, artist performing in Chicago, in New York City, in Atlanta, and LA, and maybe Miami if Florida gets their act together. And then just continue to spread this into other splinter groups. We'd like this to eventually to have other people with other chapters in other countries.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are the 3 big long-term goals.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's not only very ambitious, but it's a commitment. Like, this is going for real, and it sounds like ultimately a lot of people do know about hopeful cases, but it seems like it's going to become something that you're going to hear of wherever it be. So yeah, I mean, it sounds great, and can't wait to see what's to come, really.
Yeah, me too. I'm just as curious, and I'm sure I'll be just as surprised as you are.
So yeah, our final question, the biggest hitter of them all, is what mark do you want to leave on the world?
That's such a heavy question, but it's such a good question. I don't know right now if I know what mark I want to leave on the world. I do know that, and this has always stuck with me, I hope at the minute of the time of my death, I hope I'm lucky enough to get to die in a way where I get to reflect, to be conscious, and I hope I'm not disappointed in how I lived it. I hope I'm proud of what I've contributed to my very, very short time on Earth. But I don't know. I don't know the legacy, the mark I want to leave. I don't know. I hope a good one. That's really it. But I hope. Yeah, I mean, that's all I can really think of. I don't know what kind of mark. of course I have narcissistic and egotistic like desires, like, so like I think people forget, like, I'm not a musician. Like, this is not what I do. Like, I'm an actor. Like, so of course I want to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what I think the weirdest thing is. Everyone's like, you're a musician. I'm like, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I'm an actor. I just happen to do this. But so of course I'd like to be a name, and of course I'd like to get opportunities to do my own work under my own terms. And I guess I get to do that now, but the closest I can come to answering that question is I hope at the end of my life I am proud of the work I've done, and I don't regret just like wasting my time, So that's,
Yeah.
I think that's the closest I can get to answering that one. Did that answer it?
Yeah, perfect.
Definitely.
We always get good answers with that question. Whether
Yeah, that's a good one.
like answering it directly, it doesn't really matter. It gives you a lot of insight into people's mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, just really glad we got that one.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that basically closes it up. I mean, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor getting to really go in depth, not only with you, but about the whole hopeful cases and the person you are as well. So, I mean, maybe in a while we'll bring you back on. We'll stay in touch, and it's really been a great pleasure and honor.
Absolutely, guys, and the pleasure is all mine. And thank you so much for the opportunity to get to. You guys have a lovely forum. I'm excited to see what becomes of it.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Us too.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for the listeners for keeping here so much. This has been the Creekcast. Follow us at the Crickets on Instagram to remember every new episode on Mondays. Yeah, more guests coming. Thanks so much for listening.
And also check out everything that has to do with Hopeful Cases. They're on Twitter, they're on Instagram. Check out the live streams on Twitch and on Reddit as well. So yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.